Hey guys, welcome back.
Here we go
Hey,
again.
good morning, good
Hello.
afternoon. How's it going?
Aside from being severely sunburned, feeling pretty good. Good day out in the sun yesterday. Well worth it.
Good for you.
Or it's gonna peel off.
I hope it doesn't peel off, but I hope the red goes away. That would be awesome.
And then it's gonna peel off.
Get used to it toiling on the sun.
No doubt.
AI will take your job.
Exactly.
It already has. It already has.
If he had a job currently, yes.
Even with trying to be a consultant, you find yourself up against a lot of the work you could do, people can really do for themselves with the leveraging of tools that are out there today. So it kind of waters down, reduces the revenue chance significantly. It's an interesting play. Interesting play.
Well, but it's still a bubble. It's just the question is, will you be able to wait until it bursts?
And when will it burst?
When will
right?
it burst?
This is like
the question.
It's a hype cycle that's in its third year.
Yeah.
When does that bubble burst, right? And what causes it? There's hardware limitations. You can only do so much with copper. You generate so much heat and waste a lot of power and energy trying to compensate for just cooling, let alone the processing. When do we get off of the 1950 Ford four-door sedan and into a 2026? What's your make model, Judith? Toyota
Camry is the one that I have.
Camry. Yeah, I mean, with the low-profile sport tires and all, I never saw that coming in a Camry. It's awesome. So when do you gaze off of that, right? You got the old technology, old architecture for GPUs, even though they're not really old, but it's still using very energy-intensive technology.
Oh yeah.
And into something future state, light-based, and doesn't require all that cooling.
You know, one day they will start. They will have to start charging the real cost of AI.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's another question. How is it going to happen? How they are gonna make it happen when they don't even know what it is at the moment?
Wow.
Right.
And who they are going to charge it to?
And
The end users?
What's the legitimate charge really that can be passed on? Because if you're trying to plan for it, how do you plan on your spend when there's so many variables and so many potential cost hiccups you could run into? Ask Uber. Worth of budget in 4 months.
But how did they measure it?
Yeah, that's the hard part. Is how do you measure it? Unlike cloud, where you've got the CPU, memory, storage, network, you've got all these tangible things to measure. How do you measure it effectively? Tokens
How do you set the budget?
High, low, exactly. I don't know.
To begin with.
And then if you can't do that part, how do you measure your return on the investment? It's a hot mess kind of, and it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. You see the excitement when people adopt, hey, we've introduced agentic AI. It took our workload from a day and a half work down to 9 hours, or now down to 9 minutes. Great. What happens if that run gets? Yeah, how much is it costing you? Well, what happens if that runaway problem occurs for you with agentic AI and your agents are 24/7 burning through tokens, and all of a sudden you get a bill for $500,000.
Well, one piece of it, one part of it, they know, right? If it's a human doing it, then they know that it's going to be the cost of that person for 1.5 days, right? So, but probably that's the budget. Probably that's what they are setting their expectations accordingly. I don't know, but that's what they are going to save with it. But how do they know how much that 9 minutes for the AI to do it is going to cost them is what I don't understand.
Yeah, and I think that's the big gap there, is that you're right. It's very tangible, the human cost, got it, but then suddenly you've spent $500,000 for a $300 problem or $300 task, right?
But
yeah,
sorry.
And then you don't even know if the outcome of that 9 minutes job is going to be what you're looking for from quality perspective.
That's a great point. Are you also measuring the person that has to go back and verify everything that's been processed through an agent or through whatever form of AI you're using? Interesting dilemma to fall into. And then you couple that with the emerging technology, and some of the chatter out there is still focused on. And you guys remember, I think we had a couple team meetings and talked about quantum computing, where it was at, and this was 3 years ago. And I don't think the needle's moved at all since then. It's a harder, heavier lift.
For sure.
What's your thought on that, Livy?
Well, for me, quantum computing is always like what is it called? Not nuclear power. What's the other? Fission power. So, fusion power is like 30 years away. And I think the quantum computing is very similar to that. But I know there are some hardware already achieving results and stuff like that. And And I can imagine that if you couple it with agentic AIs, it could drive into a much higher processing AI version. But the question is who's going to check it, if it's, or who's going to validate the returned data if it's producing in an exponentially fast or speeding up way all the returns, and then who's going to have the capacity to check that and validate that data, and who's going to know or who's going to feed the AI who's checking that data with valid data or valid information that it can check it against it. So it's a very strange take that with the AI will help for sure. Making it a reality, the quantum computing for sure. But what is going to bring, that's a different story, I think. And
I agree.
it will probably a very costly one at some point.
Yeah, I agree, and it opens up it's almost opening up Pandora's box, right? If you just look at in the simplest form of the large language model, 3 elements of learning for the language model itself that are required to ensure quality. You've got supervised learning, unsupervised, and now even self-learning, and then reinforcement learning. And this is that human in the loop verification that's happening. What happens when you've exhausted all the learning potential for human participation? Then what becomes of us? And how fast does it accelerate? The whole premise behind quantum computing is how much more it can do, how faster it can solve. But then what happens to us?
We'll remain the customers, but paying from what kind of income?
Yeah, where do we generate our income to pay for anything? What do we return to? We were joking about it. Do we go back to farming? Go back to the simple life? We'll just go back and be farmers. And
yeah, but I mean, those tractors are also now self-driving and GPS.
You don't get the cool job with the air-conditioned cab. You get the pick and shovel job, something the robot can't quite do today.
Cleaning the sensors.
There you go.
What you're projecting basically is that AI is going to take over everything.
No,
but I don't think that's gonna. I know, but that's how it sounds like you're joking about it. But that's how it sounds but we know that that's not gonna happen. AI is not gonna be able to take over. I don't know, client-facing roles, for example. And going back to the critical thinking, like we said it, right? So it can learn a lot of things from the past, and it can learn from its own mistakes and our own mistakes as well. But there is always going to be a bit of information that's in somebody's head that is required to be able to fully resolve an issue, for example. If something is not on paper, right, or on the internet, wherever we are looking at it, if something is not documented, AI is not going to know about it. Yeah, it can predict a lot of things, right? But it's not going to be able to read my mind, your minds, or anybody else's mind, and our experiences that we have.
That's the big differentiator for me, right? I don't believe AI exists. I mean, we use the term artificial intelligence. It's really just the next iteration of a better form of automation. Machine learning has come away.
I agree.
And it's not really artificial intelligence.
It's not sentient, for sure. Yeah.
No, it's not. And there's so many variables and maybe quantum computing solves this 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road. I don't know how far down the road quantum computing really is. Maybe it solves this, but the current technology today just cannot take into consideration the thousands of different variables that come up that people solve for. When we have a team meeting of five to seven folks, it's a small team. We're collaboratively talking about how to solve problems, and there's so many different directions you can go, but not all of them are viable. And people tend to know what's more viable, less viable readily, whereas artificial intelligence has the capability to chase all 1,000 options, and it will. Are any of them right, and does it come back with the right result?
No, I think Levi had a good word there, intuition, and that's what AI. Teach. I don't believe that. Yeah, that's not something that you can teach. The gut feeling that you can teach. And going back to what you said about the 5-7 team meeting. We always had a very diverse team, right? So a lot of things are influencing as well who is saying what and who sees what as a successful solution for anything. But when you put, let's say, if you have 5, 7 people from different countries, different cultures, different mindset, different background, you name it, and you put all that together, that's when you're going to get something useful and beneficial for everybody. I don't know if AI is there yet. And we were talking about emotions and taking culture and everything else into consideration, right, with AI. It's not there yet, and I don't think that it's ever gonna get there because it's so complex and so complicated, even for us humans, just as we are communicating and navigating through that landscape.
I agree. When we would do innovation lab type of discussions, and you go through ideation, one person's comment, and this I might have mentioned this previously. There was an interview with Elon Musk where they're on a launch pad for SpaceX and they're talking about the rockets. And the guy who's interviewing him, he's a reporter, maybe a little bit of a science-based reporter, but he's clearly he's not a rocket engineer. And he's talking to Elon Musk about the engine design, etc. And in that moment, he asks a question. Maybe it was benign, but he asked a question that triggered Elon Musk to think and look at the rocket and say, you know what? We need to redesign this. We need to make this change, do this, take this path. And that's the kind of innovation that happens when in human interaction that I don't see a machine doing.
No,
I remember
and
that. Yeah.
that's how we set our visions as well in the previous companies, right? By talking to each other, somebody asking something, somebody saying
Right.
something, pops in the mind, says it out loud, and then it helps the other person to get on the right track.
Yeah, exactly. You know, we would have those presentations,
And
Judith, the
maybe
CICD
AI get there,
discussions,
but
one of
then
my favorites.
sorry.
Sorry, Levy. But we had the CICD discussions with the team responsible for it as we were building out basically a challenger to what was the status quo.
Yes.
And we looked at this is your current workload and it follows this path. You could go step 1, step 2, step 8, 15. There are all these gaps that then started to show up. There was no continuity and there was no way to measure from beginning to end what was happening. And the outcomes were generally poor. And there was just no process. But it triggered with us, and we had a partner that had worked at Amazon for quite a while. I don't know if I should give Matt's name, but we had Matt, and we talked about it from his point of view, what Amazon internally would have been doing, and you could easily close those gaps.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we readily had a solution in weeks, right? There's something that had been a problem for a team dedicated to it for years. Then the challenge was how do you sell it to other people, especially
Yeah,
those who are feeling threatened by it, right? And that didn't
let's
go
not
so
go
well.
into let's not go into that for now because that's what got all of us into trouble. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's that part is the leadership that we talked about so many
Yeah.
times. Leaders supporting.
If we had a tool that we could parse that through, we would never have got that outcome though. In those short period of weeks that we worked on this, we had a solution that was viable quickly,
I know.
could have been
I know.
adopted and ready to run with. And it was based off of your prior knowledge, what you had done, what I had done in software development, what Matt had done at AWS. Levy, what all the knowledge you had about the technology in general,
The
all that
infrastructure
stuff came
piece, yeah.
together, diversity of thought. And I don't know how you achieve that diversity of thought effectively in today's, I hate using the term artificial intelligence.
Yeah, but you
I
see,
don't
I mean,
think I don't think
you
you
can
can.
with a big enough flowchart, you can account for all these things and the subconscious, because human interaction is riddled with just subtext actions and signs and you reading it, you changing your behavioral things, and all those things are account for, and you can account all those for. The question is, how would you justify a $5 million AI bill for a 15 minutes meeting that can be done by 4 people? And you cannot. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not, even with quantum computing, it's not going to get much cheaper because people who actually developed the technology will want their money back. So they're not going to sell the same or like 10 billion fold processing power for the same money like you would buy now. So they're going to charge more. So it's going to cost more to use it. And then at the end, it's going to turn out that, oh well, still the guys rowing in the what is it, the boat, it's much more cheaper than buying the Mercury whatnot 5-liter, 6-liter engine in the back. So
Yeah, that's where I was going with.
probably once the hype is a bit chilled, the cost, I mean, it happened before that when a new company arises, there's money for everything. They throw money at everything, right? And then when the chicken come home to roost, you will have to produce something that is returning the money for the investors, right? And then
But
that's
that's
gonna
one of the
happen.
problems with the startup companies,
Yeah,
right?
but the AI is in the rise now because a lot of people are shoveling money at it, burning up all the money, and it keeps the steam up. But then eventually they will run out of money, they will be hanged by the investors, or just some new thing will come up, arise, and then it will steal the hype, and then you will end up with a technology that is pretty good, pretty fast, and solving simple things, and it's good for automation, but it's not that, it's not going to change our world forever.
When's the money running out is the question.
And that's the other problem, and I think that's what a lot of us have been impacted by is the perception for everybody in a publicly traded company seems to think that laying people off is the solution to everything. Well, you lay off
Yeah.
30,000 people, that gives you that cash now to go
Yeah.
and invest into the technology you had
But
no
it's
other
a
way to pay
one-off.
for.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so
That
the
you don't even
impact,
know what you're paying for. You just
right?
know that you need the money and
Yeah,
you need to put the money somewhere else in another bucket. But again, back to what Levi said, they are throwing money in it, but they probably don't even know what they are throwing it at.
no, they can't measure it.
So it's just the hype. It's just the, hey, this is the new thing. We need to stay afloat and we need to get on
Ahead
that
of it.
train with the, yeah, or ahead of it if possible, or get on the train at least just to stay relevant. Time staying relevant in this case is potentially killing the company and the culture of the company.
And the people, specifically the impact each of us as employees, the dystopian mantra that you can accept it. Levy, your point about the two income family. Well, if only one of you has to work, it gives the other one something they can go do instead. It's like, well, two incomes was required for me to have or sustain the lifestyle I have, my house, my car, my vacations, anything I'm doing. Without that other income, I can't do this stuff. So you're basically dismissing my needs for investment in something that's not producing return.
Humanity would be like a hive mind. We could as a society say that, well, F off, half of us are not going to turn up at work, and then you will have to, as an employer, you will have to fight and start paying premium for those who actually show up. So then everyone,
Equalizes
theoretically,
it. Yeah.
would benefit, because you don't have to come to work. I will do the work, and then I will get double paid, and that means that you can do whatever needs to be done for the family. But it's not going to happen because it's a free market, and of course, if the pay will raise, then people will do the benefit analysis and say that, okay, well, if I hire a nanny, then I can go to work, and then I will make two times the money that I pay for the nanny, and then I mean, it's not going to go backwards for sure.
No.
So cheering for people losing their job, it's just a billionaires crazy,
Yeah. You're right.
detached from
Yeah, being
reality
far from
thing.
reality.
Yeah.
And the other element here is so when that happens to you, you take on a second role. So now you've got two jobs basically.
Never
They
at home
tell
with the
you,
family.
yeah, they tell you, I'm giving you a 25% pay increase. Well, that's awesome, but how much are you saving from the other person you let go? So realistically, it's only costing you 5% more for me to do two jobs. So why not do that to everybody? So now everybody gets somebody else's job plus their own, and the company saves a boatload of money. And on paper, it seems like the individual's getting a significant raise, but a 25% raise is only 25% of what you were earning. Okay, still significantly less than what they saved. It's a vicious cycle, and it starts to, I don't know, cumulatively it starts to build up, and you see the impact on people, and very disheartening.
And it's just
Place where the moment it becomes evil is if you're not even getting a pay rise. So they are laying somebody off. And how many times did it happen, right? We
they just dumped that person's work.
And then whoever remains gonna have absorbed the additional work without additional pay.
It's an excellent point. As being generous and saying, hey, they gave you a raise, but you're spot on. It happens more frequently than not.
Yeah.
And it's just stupid that they think that, or they act like we are in a Noah's Ark situation, that every one of us is paired up with the person that you will end up end your life with, and it will never change. Situations are not changing. People are not breaking up, or families getting separated and stuff. So it's like, why would they come up with that idea that, oh, well, AI will automate so much that half of you don't have to come to work? Okay, which half?
Right.
So it's
interesting challenges. I mean, it's so complex. Really need to come up with a good topic that we can parse and then pass some of that through to somebody who understands it, somebody who's an expert.
Who understands and who is the expert? That's the question,
I
right?
don't know. I have no answer there. I don't know who that's going to be.
Exactly, because everybody seems to, who is involved with AI, everybody seems to believe that they are the experts of it. And
I never talked to anyone who's using AI thinks that that's some revolutionary. Most of the people like that's a PA on on the computer.
So, and I had an interesting experience. Now that you mentioned that, Levy, I'm a proponent of technology, you guys. I really love technology, but I was kind of tied up in some work and working fairly extensively, and so I crafted a thank you letter for an interview, and I saved it as a draft. I always like to save it as a draft and come back to it after I've had time to step away, so I have a fresh sense of vision that I'm looking at it for the first time. And okay, that sounds stupid. That sounds great. Whatever. Well, it just so happened I had to be on the road for this edit. So I did it from my mobile phone. And my mobile phone had a newly enabled AI feature I wasn't aware of. And in my, you got the small screen you're reading this on, even though it's a 6-inch screen, it's still smaller in a desktop computer environment. I'm reading through it and it's predictively adding stuff, and I'm not seeing it's changing some of the context. I'm not asking it to. I'm manually trying to edit and make sure I've worded things correctly. And I did a copy, or actually I did a cut paste, I thought. Ended up being a copy paste at the ending of this thank you letter. So I copy pasted essentially the same verbiage in two different spots within the thank you letter. And I didn't realize I'd just copied pasted. I thought I had cut, pasted, and then manipulated it around. It predictively made some changes that AI thought was right. I sent it.
But it wasn't.
I got home that evening and I reread it from my computer, and I'm like going, this reads like crap. Who did this? I spent the next day and a half trying to figure out, how did this happen? Well, there's a feature that was enabled on my phone I was not aware of. The mail client I use on my phone did an update, and I did not know it had this new feature. And it decided it should be enabled by default. So, yeah, I sent a crap thank you letter when I didn't intend to.
The AI fatigue is real.
What do you think? I don't think very highly of AI, especially when I spend more time correcting what it's done than I spent creating what I created. It was supposed to save me from all that nonsense, right? I could use it for grammar and continuity of thought in my writing, and it would be better. And in many cases, it does, but quite often there's so many gotchas. It's like, oh my hell, I just spent more time editing what it changed than I would have spent doing it myself.
The sad part of it is that it could be that it's just cost you the opportunity. And I'm sorry, it could easily be that. You never know. Because if you cannot send a normal email, a good sounding email, in a customer facing environment, a client facing environment, then
they're going to go, what would we hire you for?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what you were trying to do, right? So,
yep.
Come on, this guy sent an AI letter. Thank you. What kind of level of interest is that?
Yeah, and that was actually not even my primary concern. My primary concern is why would I have repeated the same statement 3 times when I didn't? I had done a cut paste, and because I took that selection of text, the AI element of my mail client decided to reuse those 3 words in other places, and it made the changes. I'm like, why did it do that? It was bizarre. So that's an unfortunate part of it, and that's where, to your point, Levy, I think a lot of, especially end users, people working with the tool are like, yeah, this isn't all that great. It's okay, but it's not changing my
it
life.
has its flaws. It has its flaws.
It has its flaws. It has its benefits as well. It's just
Sure.
the two haven't balanced out just yet. Go ahead.
I'm just saying that you shouldn't take it as a magical thing that will like omnipotent. It can do a lot of things, but you have to supervise it. It's like having a super powered child. You have to just take care of it, not to burn the next door down. So
yeah, but and it goes back to what Troy you started the whole conversation with. It's more like an automation thing rather than anything else. And with automation as well, we know that it needed supervision.
Very unfortunate.
Yeah, that's sad.
Anyways, great discussion. Anything you want to close on today?
Everybody keep breathing. This bubble is just gonna explode at some point.
Yeah, there will be a change. What will that change be? I wish I knew.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know.
We'll see.
Well, have a great rest of the week, and it was good to catch up.
You too.
Have a great next week.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, okay. I'll let it slide today.
See you then.
All right. Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
Talk to you. Bye bye.